Okay, welcome to the 2024 externship onboarding meeting. Just to let everybody know, this is going to be recorded for those who missed it. It'll be posted onto YouTube. And I'll also say in advance, I'm going to share this slide deck out with everybody this evening or tomorrow morning, if you want to go back and reference the slides. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started here. And if everybody could just mute themselves, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so like I said, welcome to the onboarding. And first of all, I want to say, first I should say my name is Hallie Foltz. I'm the externship program coordinator, and I want to say congratulations to all of you who have been placed. We got an overwhelming number of applications this year, so congrats on being placed, and we're super excited to have you all on board. Okay, so like I said, my name is Hallie Foltz. I'm the externship program coordinator. And Nate Dean, he is the STEM education work-based learning manager. He's also on this call. And then
Hello, everybody. Just to say hi real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Case you need to put face to name in case we email in the future.
Yes, so Nate Dean, he is also super involved with this process as well. Stephanie Lee, her title is actually something different than the grants and contracts analyst, but she is who's going to be sending your agreements. So if you have questions on those specifically, that's going to be the contact that you direct those questions to. Francine McGrew, she's our fiscal manager. She is going to be involved with your invoices and payments, things of that nature. And Katie Bush Wilson, she is the STEM Education Coordination Officer. If any of you are signed up to attend iSTEM, I'm sure you have interfaced with her. So yeah, everybody's contact information is there if you need us. So what is the externship program? I'm sure most of you already know, and I know there's a lot of returning people, but I'll go ahead and just give a brief introduction. So the STEM Action Center is a state agency under the officer of the governor that promotes STEM education throughout the state. And this program specifically is meant to kind of connect educators to industry partners. And this partnership is through Micron and the Workforce Development Council. That's who funds this grant that pays for the stipend and the whole program. So you'll work 200 hours at your host site to learn STEM durable skills that you can then take back into the classroom to introduce your students to new STEM careers in Idaho. So that's the goal. Okay, so all of you will be, like I said, getting an agreement, which includes a W-9s, and it'll come from Stephanie Lee. And you'll have this, you'll do this through Adobe Sign. So you'll electronically sign and it will automatically be sent back to her. And you can't start your externship until this agreement is signed and sent back to her. And like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to Stephanie. And I know, like I said, there's a lot of you folks who are returning and maybe have filled out a W-9 for us previously, but we just ask that you do it again in case there are any changes. Yeah, so here is what that W-9 form will look like, as well as the agreement. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask myself or Steph. So we've changed a few things this year in terms of payment and tracking hours. Previously, you were sent 2 checks via snail mail, and this time it will just be 1 check for $5,000 upon the completion of your 200 hours of work. And you will fill out an invoice, which you can find on our website, and here's a link to it. But I will, as we get farther into the process, I'll send all this information again, just so it can stay top of mind. But yeah, you'll fill out this invoice upon your 200 hours, the completion of your 200 hours, and you will send it to Francine at finance@stem.idaho.gov. And just be aware, because it is snail mail, it can take up to 30 days or a bit longer to process, but we do our best to send those checks out as soon as we receive your invoice. Additionally, one small change that we made is instead of submitting a weekly Excel sheet of the hours that you've worked at the end of the 200 hours, your host or whoever your point of contact is at your host site will just digitally sign off attesting that you've worked your 200 hours right there on the invoice. And like I said, you can find it on our website if you want to go ahead and take a look at that. Couple other things that I wanted to mention. If you are attending iSTEM, just signed up as an educator, those hours do not count towards your externship hours unless you are attending iSTEM to help your host site, which probably doesn't matter to most of you. I know there are a few host sites who are involved with iSTEM, but yeah, if you're attending iSTEM as an educator, those hours do not count towards the 200 externship hours. And finally, the last day to submit your invoices and paperwork and all of those things to work your hours is September 9th. I know most of you will finish a lot sooner than that, but the final day to submit an invoice is September 9th. And of course, as we advance in the process, I'm sure there will be questions. Just feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to walk you through it and any questions that you may have.
And just to chime in one more thing on there, Hallie, on that previous slide.
Mhm.
As far as the hour tracking goes, keep in mind your host site may have an expectation for you to be tracking hours with them. And that's something they should be working with you on. That will vary based on each of your placements and what agreement you work out with your host site. It's just, for our standpoint, we're just concerned that you'd complete the 200 hours, and that's just you submitting the invoice with the host site signature. However you guys get there, that's up to you to determine with them.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Nate. Okay, so additional requirements. Each extern is required to submit a blog post, and you can find examples in the archives of what externs have previously written up on our website. There's a link to it here in this slide. And we also ask that you take a photo at your host site to submit along with your blog post, but please get permission before taking any photos from your host sites. We don't want to step over any sensitive boundaries that they don't want you taking pictures of. And if you're working remotely, just get creative and just get a photo in if you can. And then, like I said, all blog posts must be submitted prior to September 9th. But if you want to submit it at the halfway point or whenever you want to within those 200 hours is perfectly fine. Additionally, there will be a site visit. So a member of the STEM Action Center staff will schedule a site visit around the halfway point of your 200 hours. And this will primarily be done in person, but for those who are working a fully remote placement, it will be done over Zoom. And this is just really a chance for the STEM Action Center to check in, hear how things are going, what you've been up to, things like that. So the signed agreement, the W-9, the invoice, the blog post, and the site visit are the main requirements. And like I said, as we advance in the process, I'll be bringing these up so they're top of mind. But I just want to get all of the requirements out here at once, just so we're all aware of them. And so paid for through the grant, you have the option to get 3 professional development credits from BSU upon the completion of your 200 hours. We don't quite have that registration link from BSU ready yet, but as soon as it is given to me and accessible, I'll be sure to share that out with everybody. You have to register in order to get those credits, but they are free, so definitely encourage you to sign up for those. And if you have any specific questions regarding professional development, please reach out to Katie or myself and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. Travel reimbursement, this is not going to pertain to everybody, but by now, those who have submitted travel requests should know whether or not they have approved. And if you haven't had the chance to talk with your host site about travel yet, please reach out to me as soon as possible so we can get that figured out, because all travel requests must be submitted prior to your agreements being sent out. And for those of you who have approved travel requests, you must adhere to the state travel policy, which you can find on our website as well as the link here. And I really encourage you to familiarize yourself with this as thoroughly as possible in order to be properly reimbursed. We have also created specific reimbursement forms for each person who has approved travel, and those just became finalized this afternoon, actually. So I will be getting those out to the folks who have approved travel, probably tomorrow or early next week. And you will submit all reimbursement forms to finance@stem.idaho.gov. And for any questions you have regarding travel, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help you fill out those forms or whatever questions you might have. But yeah, if you haven't had the chance to speak with your host about travel, please do get those into me as soon as possible.
Real quick, just to address a question from the chat.
Mhm.
Um, I I believe this was referring to the free credits available. Is that only with BSU, or can we get credits from other Idaho universities? The free credits that we're arranging are going to be offered through Boise State, since we're going to be establishing an agreement with them to be able to have them paid for through us. So there won't be an option to be able to get credits through another university, but you don't have to pay for them. So really the only cost there would be getting the transcript from BSU if your district requires an official transcript. I don't believe the State Department requires official transcripts for renewal anymore.
Thanks for that, Nate. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to questions. But as always, I want to stress that if this is your first time going through the program, or if you're returning, since we have changed things up just a bit, if you have any questions whatsoever, once you get started with your host site, or if you have any concerns about your host site, who to contact, anything like that, please reach out to me so I can go ahead and coordinate that with your host and get you the answers you need. But questions, once you get started, questions directly related to the work that you're going to be doing at your host site should be directed to the point of contact at your individual host sites. But anything related to the requirements, reimbursements, payments, anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. Yeah, so at this time, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or just ask any questions anybody might have.
Can you, hey, this is Matt from Pocatello. Can you just touch on what are the kind of, like, can we stay in Airbnbs if we're traveling, or is it hotels only? Just, is that I don't know if there's a quick answer to that.
So you're going to want to refer back to the state travel policy, and you and I can offline if you want to have a quick call regarding that state travel policy, because I know it can be a little bit tricky to figure out, but that's all detailed out in that policy. But you're ultimately, whether it's an Airbnb or a hotel or something like that, you're just going to want to pick the most cost-effective, cheapest option. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nate.
That is correct. Yeah, it's always going to fall to whatever the most cost-effective method of doing it is. If you have a specific question regarding whether something would be approved or not, because I'm not familiar if there's a carve out for Airbnbs or anything like that. I know they often are cheaper under certain circumstances. I would just make sure to email finance@stem.idaho.gov, which is one of the contacts included in the travel documentation and also in this slide deck that we will share out with everybody. And they'll be able to help you navigate any specific questions like that, just to make sure we stay on the right side of the travel reimbursement policy.
All right, thanks, Nate.
Also, Matthew, I wanted to mention since you're relocating, your reimbursement form is going to be a little bit different because you're getting a flat stipend. So like I said, if once we get started, you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know, and I'll be sending that stipend information and all of that to you probably tomorrow or early next week.
And looks like we got a question in the chat with regard to travel expenses, hotel, etc. Do we pay that up front and then submit for reimbursement? Yeah, all of that is outlined in the travel policy, but if you have been approved for travel reimbursement expenses, then yeah, all of that is generally handled through a reimbursement where it's paid up front and then we pay it out afterwards, along with any per diem or anything like that that applies.
Can I ask a question for travel expenses for driving? Because I'll be driving to Gooding, so it's like 76 miles round trip. It's like 38 miles each way. I guess I'm one of those people that didn't pay attention to that email and talk to the site host. Would I need to contact Glanbia about that? Or what, I guess since I'm obviously did not follow through the first time, what do I need to do now to get that a part of my agreement, I guess?
So, if it's under 40 miles one way, I don't believe that that counts towards like, I don't believe that that's able to be reimbursed.
Okay.
If you go ahead and email about your specific situation, and we can go ahead and take a look at it with Stephanie, our operations officer, just because the travel policy is a little odd. For example, hotel, Hallie's absolutely correct. Like lodging, we don't cover, and unless somebody's 50 miles out or further. But sometimes with mileage reimbursement, that doesn't follow suit the same way.
Okay, and once again, who do I follow up with? You said just with.
Just go ahead and send a message to extern@stem.idaho.gov. That'll go to Hallie, and then we can sort it out from there.
Okay, thank you.
I had talked to one of my host people at Western Aircraft, and is this something that like you guys pay for every year? Because he said he kind of made it sound like he was going to do this every year. So is this a one-time thing for me, or is this grant offered every summer that this is something I could look into doing every summer?
So this is the last year of the grant. So going forward, we have a budget for this. It doesn't necessarily mean that the host site will get a free extern year after year. So going forward, it's not necessarily going to be free of charge to the host sites.
Yeah.
Okay.
That being said, the externship program, as far as on your end as a educator extern, should look very much the same. We will likely have far less than the 100 slots that we had available this year going forward, unless we find some funding that we don't currently have on the way. But it would still be available as a opportunity to apply for. We're just still looking at what that's going to look like for host sites and whether and how much they'll have to pitch in to be able to fund it.
Gotcha.
All right. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? I don't want to cut anybody off. Wait time is important, of course, but you can also feel free to ping Hallie at extern@stem.idaho.gov, and we'll be able to follow up with you there. Oh, looks like we got one more question that did come in the chat. What if the project objectives are met before 200 hours? So there's kind of two components of it. The host site was hopefully supposed to plan the project out so that it would take approximately the 200 hours that you were going to be doing as part of the externship. But if you complete the project before that, hopefully it's not well before that, you would still be expected to complete the 200 hours worth of work supporting in there. So it's both completing the project if possible and completing your 200 hours is what we're looking for to be able to get you that compensation there at the end.
Okay, well, once again, I just want to thank you all so much for being a part of this program and for joining us tonight. And I will share out this slide deck. And if you have any other questions that come up once we're off the call, feel free to reach out. And I'm looking forward to working with you all for the rest of the summer. So thank you so much.
Thank you.